Mr. Chairman, I just want to close by saying that what was once the Department of Justice has become the Department of Revenge and Corruption. Rather than pursuing cases without fear or favor, this DOJ seeks to favor the president's friends and instill fear in his alleged enemies. If you're a friend of the president, this corrupt DOJ will bend over backwards to help you, just like it dropped the bribery investigation of Tom Homan, like it's considering paying money to January 6th rioters, and like it has put antitrust enforcement decisions in the hands of well-connected lobbyists. But if you're on the wrong side of this president, you will face the wrath of DOJ, no matter what the facts, law, or justice support. James Comey is indicted days after the president's social media directive. Experienced career prosecutors are fired just because they were assigned to work on January 6 cases. Blue states are sued to get highly sensitive private voter data, whereas red states are left alone. The double standard is clear, and the American people are waking up to the corruption and favoritism and the lawlessness at the DOJ.
May I respond?
Yes, you may respond. Then Senator Kennedy.
Thank you. The double standard is crystal clear, Senator Hirono, crystal clear, because you didn't complain for 4 years when President Trump was being targeted by Jack Smith, by the last Justice Department. But the American people spoke loud and clear when they overwhelmingly elected him. The two-tier system of justice is over.
The blunt clash between senators and Attorney General Bondi is more than another headline. It's a live lesson in why an independent, transparent Justice Department matters to every American. At stake in those exchanges were three core issues: whether DOJ is making law enforcement decisions based on evidence or politics, whether long-standing norms, like protections for journalists and career prosecutors, are being abandoned, and whether basic tools of national security and antitrust enforcement are being reshaped in ways the public needs explained, not glossed over.
At your confirmation hearing, you assured me that it is the Department of Justice's decision to determine what cases will be prosecuted. Last month, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was forced out. President Trump then posted the message behind me asking about prosecuting James Comey. You then appointed a new U.S. attorney who within days secured an indictment against James Comey. That social media post behind me saying, "What about Comey?" was directed to Pam. Are you the Pam that the president was referring to?
I'm sure I was.
So it's very clear to me that when the president posts something like that, that he considers the DOJ to be his law firm and you his lawyer. And in fact, very shortly after the post to you, Comey gets indicted. Last year, President Trump's new border czar, Tom Homan, was videotaped taking a bag with $50,000 in cash from undercover FBI agents after suggesting he could help with government contracts. Sounds like a bribe. 2 weeks ago, DOJ officials reportedly shut down the bribery investigation into Mr. Homan. Ms. Bondi, did you approve closing the Homan investigation, bribery investigation?
Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, the Department of Justice and the FBI conducted a thorough review, and they found no credible evidence of any wrongdoing. You were also on video outside the White House protesting with a group called CASA, where Antifa members were. Does that mean you're a member of Antifa?
You know, I simply asked the question as to whether or not you approve the shutting down of the investigation of Mr. Homan. I have to assume that you did because the FBI reports to you. But the American people would look at the situation where this person is taking a $50,000 in cash, no less, and you testified today that a thorough investigation was done. Now, I have to assume, I conclude, that since no wrongdoing was determined, that in answer to Senator Whitehouse's question, he kept the money. He kept the money, and I hope that he put that on his tax returns as income. Next question. Over 1,200 rioters were convicted of charges related to January 6th. President Trump has since pardoned nearly all of them. As if that weren't enough, last month there were reports that a lawyer for the January 6 rioters met with senior DOJ officials about setting up a compensation fund like the one that Congress set up after 9/11 to compensate these rioters. Ms. Bondi, is anyone at DOJ considering setting up a compensation fund for January 6 rioters? Yes or no?
Senator, I have had no meetings or discussions about a fund.
So would you support such a fund? Would you okay such a fund?
Senator, you can send me the information on the fund, and I'd be happy to look at it.
No, but do you think that's a good idea to, this is what I'm getting at. Because to actually set up a fund and to have people talking with your senior people at DOJ, political people, about creating a fund, and you won't let us know what you think about that, that's pretty unbelievable. On January 30th of this year, the Trump DOJ's Antitrust Division sued to block the merger of two tech companies. Then, well-connected lobbyists met with your political deputies who overruled the career staff and approved the merger. So there's a settlement on that. And separately, DOJ sued Ticketmaster last year for monopolizing concert tickets and forcing consumers to pay outrageous fees. Ticketmaster has hired the exact same lobbyists who met with senior DOJ political people regarding the merger of the two tech companies. So my question is, Ms. Bondi, have lobbyists met with your political deputies about the Ticketmaster case?
Senator Hirono, as I stated earlier, I am not going to discuss anything that is ongoing. Gail Slater runs the Antitrust
I would
office,
say
and
that
Gail
that-
Slater, if I can finish, Gail Slater is doing an incredible job running my antitrust unit.
It's highly likely, Ms. Bondi, that the same lobbyists who met with your people basically got rid of the antitrust case.
Senator, I don't think a lot of people
I
like
would
that
say
you were out
they're probably
protesting with
meeting you
Antifa.
right now. Next question. You have fired dozens of career prosecutors because they worked on cases involving President Trump or January 6 rioters. For example, one career federal prosecutor who secured over 100 convictions in Florida. He also spent time in D.C. prosecuting January 6 cases. He received an outstanding review only 2 days before you signed a memo firing him. The memo cited no reason for his firing. Are you firing career prosecutors solely because they worked on cases like January 6th that the president doesn't like?
Senator Hirono, I am not going
Yes
to
or
talk
no?
about personnel matters with you.
Well, we all know that hundreds of career prosecutors have left the DOJ, and literally hundreds, we're told. And
Yeah,
you know,
Senator,
you've
are you
lost- the
familiar with the one
DOJ
that threw a
has
sandwich
lost-
at an ICE officer? Are you a Homeland Security officer?
is the
Are you familiar
reason-
with the one who went out on her lunch break and was
Ms. Bondi,
making obscene gestures?
Would you say that DOJ losing these career prosecutors and the thousands of hours of experience they have prosecuting criminals, that is not a reassuring situation?
Senator, many employees took the fork in the road and resigned. DOJ is hiring committed prosecutors who will actually come into the office and work, and not work remotely, and
think we all
prosecute
know
violent
that-
criminals around the country and terrorists. And
When
I
you-
am very proud
when you
of the
fire-
work all of our prosecutors
I'm running out
are
of
doing.
time, so I think you should stop with.
Start with the personnel question. When experienced career prosecutors who built complex national security and January 6th cases are pushed out with little public rationale, it isn't just a human resources problem, it's institutional memory walking out the door. Those prosecutors accumulated knowledge of witnesses, classified sources, and complicated discovery obligations that can't be replaced overnight. That loss matters for victims, for service members who relied on prosecutions, and for the credibility of future investigations. The heart of the senator's anger is reasonable. The public deserves to know why careers are ended, especially when those attorneys handled politically sensitive matters. Then there's the pattern of influence. The hearing raises a credible fear when political appointees or external lobbyists appear to override career staff, whether in antitrust suits or in whether an investigation continues. The decision calculus looks different. Antitrust enforcement, like national security prosecutions, should be driven by legal standards and evidence. When lobbyists with ties to corporate defendants meet political deputies and outcomes shift, the public is right to demand documentation that shows the career attorney's views were considered and why any settlement departed from their recommendations. The questions about FISA Section 702 and about subpoenas for journalists are concrete civics lessons. 702 is a critical intelligence tool. It lets agencies collect non-U.S. person communications overseas, but in practice can touch Americans' communications via queries. That's why statutory reforms and court-ordered safeguards matter. Likewise, the norm of protecting journalists' sources exists because confidential reporting often exposes wrongdoing that the public needs to know. Narrow, court-supervised subpoenas and rare, necessary cases are different from a broad reopening of media investigation policy that chills sources and whistleblowers. Senators pressed Bondi for specifics because national security and press freedom both deserve carefully balanced rules, transparently explained. The most corrosive accusation in the hearing is the two-tiered justice critique, that the DOJ treats allies and enemies differently. That's a democracy-shaking charge. If prosecutions are perceived as selective, accelerated, dropped, or weaponized based on politics, public faith in criminal law collapses. The remedy is procedural, transparent explanations for personnel moves, public disclosure where possible, and robust congressional oversight supported by Inspector General reviews when warranted. That's how institutions rebuild trust. For viewers who want to turn outrage into effective civic action, here's what concretely matters next. First, demand transparency. Ask your senators whether they will press for written explanations of major DOJ personnel actions and for the public release or at least classified briefing-level review of the reasons behind closed investigations being opened or closed. Second, insist on oversight of policy changes. If DOJ is changing guidance on media subpoenas or shifting enforcement priorities, Congress should hold hearings where the public can see the documents and the rationale. Third, support independent review. Push for Inspector General or special counsel inquiries when credible allegations suggest political interference. Those tools are slow, but they are designed to produce evidence, not just rhetoric. Finally, remember why this matters beyond headlines and staff lists. Justice that looks fair is justice that functions. It deters crime, comforts victims, and preserves the rule of law. When prosecutors are hired or fired for political convenience, or when investigative priorities flip based on who's favored, ordinary people pay the price. Through reduced prosecutions of violent crime, through markets left unchecked by weakened antitrust enforcement, and through less trustworthy national security practices. If you care about an impartial justice system, don't let this be a one-minute outrage. Read the committee documents, follow up on the Inspector General reports, and call your senators to demand real, documented answers, not talking points. That's the only way to turn a tense hearing into lasting accountability.